Hello friends, this is the Knitting Studio in Style. Today I want to suggest that you knit this simple beanie hat. It is very easy to knit. Using garter stitch, I crocheted around the edges here. For those who do not know how to use a hook, it is possible to make such hats without edging. I have already knitted several of these hats. Now, I will show you in photos. These hats are elongated, so you can see that they hang down in the back. Today I want to offer you a hat that does not hang down but fits snugly on the head. There is a little bit of space at the crown, but it does not hang in the back. So this is a regular hat. I want to show you the hat a bit. I did not sew on the pom-pom. I just placed it to show how it looks with the pom-pom. But I will wear it without the pom-pom. For this hat, I used 80 grams of yarn. It is just regular garter stitch and a seam in the back. This is how it looks on top. You can knit an elongated version, that means making it taller, and it will hang down like this in the back. To each their own, as they say. Knit it however you like. Mine is short. This hat is knitted differently than usual. It is knitted from left to right. You cast on stitches on the needle and knit back and forth. The knitting is vertical. This hat is knitted using short rows. What are short rows? How do you knit them? I have already made a video tutorial for you. Here a hint pops up. Whoever is interested, come and take a look. In this lesson, I won't show how I specifically knit these short rows. Well then, my dears, let's get started. We will knit it very quickly. We will start wearing it soon. For the work, we need yarn. I used 80 grams. I knitted with half wool yarn for me. To be honest, it was some leftover yarn. I won't mention the manufacturer. That is, I don't remember. It was just some scraps I had lying around, and I decided to knit a hat from these scraps. The yardage, I don't know, but probably around 300 meters for 100 grams. However, it's certainly better to knit a sample with your own yarn and calculate the number of stitches you specifically need to cast on. So, I think it's not critical that I didn't give you yarn information. Next, you need a helper thread, a small piece, a hook size 4.5 and 2.5, needles size 2.75, a spare needle the same size as the main needles, and a needle for sewing with a blunt end. Then scissors and a measuring tape. If you want a hat with a pom-pom, then of course you need a pom-pom. That's it. Let's start knitting. First, we need to measure the depth of the hat. For this, we take an old hat that fits well on the head and measure the distance from the nape down. That is, we measure the height of the hat. I have 21 centimeters. And as usual, before any knitting, we knit a sample. Wash it, dry it, and calculate how many stitches we have per 1 centimeter. I calculated that to knit 21 centimeters in height for the hat, I need to cast on 50 stitches. We will cast on using a hook with the helper thread. I took a completely different color so it would be contrasting and visible. That is, it doesn't matter. We take any other thread and a hook. I will be using needles size 2.7, so I'm using a slightly thicker hook. Mine is 4.5. And we cast on a chain of air stitches. In my case, I will cast on 50 air stitches. Why do we need the helper thread? Because after we connect our entire cap, we will make a seam to stitch it together. And in order for the seam to be neat, I decided to keep the stitches open. So right now, I am knitting on an extra auxiliary thread. Then we will unravel this first row. we are knitting the required number of chain stitches. I cast on 50 stitches, secured my row with 1 chain stitch, and cut the thread. This is our first row, which we will later unravel to open the row for sewing. Now we need to attach the working yarn to our chain. Look, this is how the front side of the chain looks. It consists of 2 half stitches. We turn it to the other side, and here we can see the longitudinal stitches. It is specifically under these stitches that we will now pick up our working yarn. We insert the hook under this stitch, grab the working yarn, and pull it through. I am using a hook. Many use needles, but I find needles uncomfortable. I pick up stitches with the hook, and then I transfer them from the hook to the needles. We have picked up 1 stitch, now under the next one, this stitch here. There is a stitch in the middle. We insert the hook and pull the working yarn through. Thus, we will pick up all 50 stitches. I think you understand. This is the front side of our chain. We turn it inside out. Here in the middle, there are such longitudinal stitches. We go under this one. We insert the stitch, hook, grab the yarn, and pick up the yarn. Then I transfer these stitches to the needles. If we look closely, here is our braid. We turn it around. Here are such stitches we insert. The hook goes under this stitch and pulls the working yarn. Why exactly under these stitches? Because later we will need to unravel this row, this chain. If we pick up some other half stitch, then our row will not unravel. Thus, we will pick up all 50 stitches. Well, that's it. I have moved all the stitches to the needles. Here is my cast-on row on the auxiliary threads. And now look at how this braid should look. That is, these 2 half loops, meaning the braid should be on this side. When picking up the working yarn for the braid, under no circumstances should you grab. Do not hook one of these half loops. This is how it should look. The braid is like this. On this side we picked up the transverse little stitches from the opposite side of the chain. That's it, I think you managed. Next, we will knit with garter stitch. I will knit 2 rows straight. That's it, we have knitted 2 rows straight. Now we will start knitting short rows. I will decrease 10 stitches in each wedge. I'm not going to show how I knit short rows now. If you don't know, for those interested, look, I have a separate tutorial. I will put a link for you below the video. I will knit until the circumference of the hat reaches 54 centimeters in general. You can knit and try on the hat as you go. That is, we measure the head circumference. That is, on what circumference we need to knit the hat, and we knit. This is our height for the hat. It turns out that we are not knitting the hat from bottom to top, but from left, for example, to right. That is, our knitting goes vertically like this. Well, I've finished knitting. In the end, I knitted 9 wedges. Each wedge had 20 rows. This will be my front side and this will be the back side. Here is my front. Now that we have achieved the needed head circumference, we need to close our 2 rows. But before that, let's knit 2 more rows straight, back and forth, just with knit stitches. That's it, we knitted. Now we will begin to sew our 2 rows together. So, this is my front side. In principle, you can choose either side. They're both nice, you could say. But I chose this one. Now I will sew in the following way. We will sew in 2 rows. We will have the inside facing us, so we turn the hat inside out. So, we are unraveling our first cast-on row. It is on an extra yarn. We catch these stitches with the extra needle. That's it, we have transferred all the stitches from the first row to the extra needle. This is our last row, we did not close it. We place these 2 needles together. Here, we have the yarn that we did not cut. This is the main yarn. The inside of the hat is facing us. Now with a hook. I have a hook that is 2.5. We start sewing with a shoulder seam. I have a video tutorial on how to perform the shoulder seam here. A hint pops up. If you are interested, please go ahead and watch. It is not complicated at all. We simply take and pick the first stitch from the first needle and the first stitch from the second needle. Then we knit them both together. After that, we just close the row. That is, we pull the main yarn through the 2 stitches and then close the row. Here's the seam that I have. A very neat ridge on the inside, and we move on. I will not stop on details here. I think the video tutorial will make everything clear. We will reach the end of our closing. That's it. At the end we make a chain stitch. We pull out the yarn. Long enough, we cut it. That's it. I have finished closing. I had the same number of stitches on both needles. Therefore, everything matched without problems. After that, we thread this yarn into the needle and go through all these, under these stitches, our edge, in a circle. That is, we will pull together the top of our hat. We can go around twice to make it really strong. We make a little knot and hide the threads. Here I turn the hat inside out. This is what the seam looks like. This is the top of the hat. This is our back seam. Now I will crochet around the hat. I will do 2 rows of single crochet stitches. Here's a tip popping up too. For those interested who don't know, who can't crochet, basically watch and... You can also crochet around, but such hats don't have to be crocheted around. They can be worn just like this. Well, that's it. I crocheted around the hat. I did 2 rows of single crochet stitches and hid all the ends. Here is such a simple hat that turned out. I hope you found it interesting. You learned something new and useful for yourself, that is all. We will say goodbye now, friends. Thank you for your company. Always stay stylish. Wishing everyone goodness.